Hey everyone, welcome to West Coast Muscle Saws. We're going to go over maintaining the air filter system on your Husqvarna 562. There is some issues with that filter system, and we'll go over that, and I'll show you some places to look for issues and how to take care of them. You know, it wasn't that long ago on chainsaws that they weren't as reliable as they are today, and the cutters would bring them in, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, and while they were on the technician's bench, of course, they got the once over, check filters, and spark plug and different things. The saws do run so much better today, they don't see a whole lot of time in the saw shop, but when they do, usually it's for a major issue, and truthfully, the guys running the saws need to do a little more maintenance on them and be aware, you know, nightly check them out, check the filters and stuff. And there is an issue with this filter system on this 562, and I'll show you what it is. This is the air box, and of course sits on here and locks into place, snaps into place, and there's a couple of places where it can let fine particles through, and one of course being right here where the air cleaner bolts on. What you need to do in this area is get some good axle grease and have it in a grease gun. You want to just lay a nice bead all the way around there. And then of course it will slide in there nice and tight, plus that grease will keep it sealed nice and tight. Another area which gets overlooked, and of course if you've had your air box off and if you weren't real careful, this little O-ring here could have popped out and it's gone. And of course when you mount that back up to the carburetor, you've got an ideal spot for fine powder to get in there, and it'll just go right into your engine. This, without going into great detail, has to be here. This is a little compensator type that when your air cleaner gets plugged, rather than choking out the saw, the atmospheric pressure changes and it will compensate for that to keep from running real rich. We'll get into that later on one of our videos. There's another O-ring here, and it stays put pretty well, but it's in there, and always check, make sure it's there. And if you would like to, and I'd recommend, is if you have this box off, put some grease around that area, and of course just a little bit here. You don't want to plug anything, and of course the grease is not going to really plug the passage, but put a little there and it'll seal better. So what I want to show you is how to put that sock on, and works real slick. Out here on the West Coast, even in Oregon, we have a high desert, dusty conditions, and then also in the Pacific Northwest during fire season, the woods dry out and the fine particles find their way into your engine, and it'll really do some damage on these 562s. Fit this into the sock. And here's where you want to be careful. You want to make sure this does not cover the intake right here, so you roll it back. You don't want it to get in the way of where it's going to seal onto your air box. And then of course you have your air box, and you just, and then pull the filter down a little bit where this lock, when you snap it into place, holds it nice and snug. Then what you want to do is get some foam filter oil, and you'll spray a light coat over this, and then watch after a day's use. Just pull it off and look, and this thing will just be covered in that fine particles, keeping it out of your engine. If you got any questions on these, let me give you some information.